Thank you for attending our webinar series. And today we have Bethany Tucker talking about motivation. It's the new year. We offer these webinars the first and the third Thursday of every month. So welcome, Bethany. Tell us more about motivation.
Thank you, Ruth. As Ruth indicated, my name is Bethany Tucker. I have been a consultant for AHA Process for 20 years, which is hard to believe, but I have enjoyed every minute of it. On the screen, you see a brief list of some of the things that I've been engaged in while I have worked with AHA Process and Ruby Payne. It was during my work in presenting some of these workshops that I became interested in motivation. I learned from workshop participants that what they needed was a way to think about motivation, a mental model or a box in which to put the ideas. So that's what this workshop is all about. Also, before joining AHA Process, you can see that I held a number of positions. I sometimes tell people, you name it, I taught it. And I reside in Virginia with my husband, William. So with that background, we will now begin talking about the facts and fallacies of motivation. As I mentioned earlier, workshop participants would frequently ask me, well, how do I motivate my students? And I began a search for how to create a mental model for motivation so that we would know what pieces might be available to a particular individual and which ones might be missing. So with that in mind, today we will take a true or false test. Question number 1. Generally speaking, human beings are born motivated. Would you please, in your mind, answer that, true or false? And of course, we're interested not only in motivated, I might be motivated to go to my kitchen counter and pick up a donut, but what we're interested in is motivation to achieve. And researchers tell us that this is true. We were born motivated to achieve. I have yet to see a 2-year-old who doesn't say to a parent, no, me do it. They want to accomplish tasks on their own. And of course, there are exceptions to every rule, but generally speaking, we were born motivated to achieve. This motivation with which we were born is, of course, intrinsic motivation. When I began the study, I thought, well, my first step will be to clarify in my own mind intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation, and which is actually the better of the two. But what I learned was they both have benefit. So, question number 2, true or false? Motivation can be enhanced. If you answer this in your heads, we'll move on. And of course, this also is true. We're born with it, and it can also be enhanced. And this enhancement, of course, is the extrinsic motivation. And all of us have been extrinsically motivated in addition to the motivation with which we were born. We can say that this motivation can be rekindled if we were born with it. What researchers tell us is that, of course, we were all born motivated, but that does not mean that that motivation will stay with us for the rest of our lives. So through extrinsic motivators, we can be extrinsically motivated. There are strategies that we can use in the classroom, in the community, with individuals, friends, family members, and we will look at just a few strategies that might be available. One is to point a student, and this could be client, this could be friends, growth out to them. You and I know that we have grown throughout our lives, but sometimes this growth is hard to recognize. I sometimes share that several years ago, my husband had knee replacement surgery, and as long as I was at home helping him to exercise his knee and to keep a chart of how much he was improving, he was happy. He knew that he was improving, he was growing. But then I went out of town for a couple of weeks, and he said, my knee is not getting any better. It's not getting any better. And when I returned home, I helped him to realize your knee has continued to improve. You just didn't know it because you could not recognize it. You could not measure it. And often our students, our clients, also fail to measure their growth until we point it out to them. And we can do this by saying, look at what you can do now that you could not do a week or a month or a year ago. Now, one major question in terms of motivation, intrinsic motivation in particular, is this: what about rewards? In fact, when I first began studying motivation, I thought if I could learn about rewards, then I would know all there is to know about motivation. But I learned very quickly that rewards are only one small piece of the puzzle. They are important, however. So please answer questions 3 and 4 in your heads at one time. Number 3, rewards can thwart motivation. Number 4, rewards can enhance motivation. Okay, assuming that you have answered these questions in your head, we'll take a look at the answers. For number 3, number 3 is true. Rewards can thwart motivation when misused. Number 4, rewards can enhance motivation. This also is true. Rewards can enhance motivation when used effectively. So just a couple of guidelines in terms of rewards. When we think about rewards, we tend to think first about contingency rewards. And of course, contingency rewards are, if you do this, then I will reward you. Whether or not you are rewarded is contingent upon whether or not you accomplish this task, and then I will be the one issuing the reward. We all know that animals can learn to function in ways that we would not expect in anticipation of a reward. Now, when we think about these cats, we know that cats were not born wanting or knowing how to ring the bell. But with the reward, we were able to teach them how to do this, even if they ring someone else's bell. Now, there is a negative side. If we rewarded these cats for ringing the bell, and then suddenly we stopped giving them the reward, they would stop ringing the bell. So the reality is that contingency rewards, once they are removed, can actually thwart motivation. The individual might stop the behavior, but, and as we see, contingency rewards can thwart established behaviors, established being the key word. However, when implemented properly, contingency rewards can be effective for initiating new behaviors. The treats initiated the new behavior with the kittens. But when we remove the reward, we would need to do this very carefully. We would need to remove the reward very slowly over a period of time, and then they can be effective. Now, contingency rewards are very different from baseline compensation. We know that in AHA processes, Getting Ahead program, individuals who share their expertise, who share what they have learned through Getting Ahead, are often given a stipend. This is baseline compensation for their work, for their efforts. We are paid for our work. This is very different from the type of reward that means if you do this little thing extra for me, then I will give you this extra reward. Now, there is another type of reward. In fact, there are many, but a third type of reward that we'll mention very briefly is the celebratory reward. So, please answer question number 5. True or false? Celebratory rewards diminish positive attitudes. I'll give you a minute to think about this. And this is no surprise. The answer is false. In fact, celebratory rewards improve attitudes. If I am a teacher and my students have perfect attendance for the week, I can say, look at what you have accomplished. Let's celebrate. And celebrations don't have to be pizza parties. They can be a 3-minute dance break. But the difference between this and contingency rewards is that with contingency rewards, I'm in control. With celebratory rewards, the other person is in control, which feeds into intrinsic motivation, which is our ultimate goal. In fact, there are some school districts that follow this guideline when they're developing lesson plans. Students, here's our plan for the day. Let's work. And when we accomplish this plan, we'll celebrate. True, false question number 6. Courage is often a characteristic of highly motivated people. So please take just a moment to answer this question. And of course, the answer is true. In fact, there are, according to several researchers, Eccles and Wingfield being two of the main ones who analyzed research on motivation. These individuals identified 3 salient characteristics of highly motivated people. And they said highly motivated people typically are not overly fearful of attempting a task. Courage is often a part of motivation. If you ask me if I wanted to go outside in 5 minutes and fly an airplane, I would be scared to death. I would not be motivated to attempt that task. Characteristic number 2, highly motivated people typically believe they are capable of performing the task at hand. And the key word here is believe. I might know how to fly an airplane, but if I don't have a sense of self-efficacy, then I will still lack motivation to perform. And this is where many of our students are in particular, and as well as community people. If they do not believe they're capable, then their motivation will suffer. And characteristic number 3, highly motivated people typically want to perform the task at hand. Now, for the mental model. And a mental model is a way of holding information in our heads. We all have many mental models. I did not have a mental model for motivation before I began this study, but I have one now that occurred to me. When I think of motivation now, I think of the story of the Wizard of Oz, because we know that in the story of the Wizard of Oz, our cowardly lion friend was afraid of everything, and our scarecrow friend believed he didn't have a brain, and our Tin Man friend didn't have a heart. He did not want to seek solutions to his problems. So this is now my mental model for motivation. When I think in terms of how to enhance an individual's motivation, I go here first. What is the starting point? An individual might need enhancement in all 3 areas, or maybe just 2, or perhaps just 1. So we will look at a strategy for each of these. There are many, many strategies for each category, but we'll look at one, starting, of course, with our individuals, our students, our clients who are simply afraid to take a risk. And the strategy is to help them to learn, to overcome learned helplessness. If I am afraid all of my life, I eventually see myself as being helpless, and I have learned this self-image. And the strategy from the work of Carol Dweck, which she calls the power of yet, is to encourage individuals when they make a negative statement such as, I don't know how to do this, I don't understand this, to say, to them, please say that again and add yet. If a client says, I don't know how to do this, let's add yet to that statement. You don't know how yet, but I will not give up on you. Well, I don't like math, a student might say. I am your math teacher. My goal is that at the end of the semester, you will like math. Well, I don't like you. Well, my goal is that at the end of the semester, I will be one of your favorite teachers. Highly motivated people typically believe they are capable. These are our scarecrow students. Now, it's worth saying that often students do not have the skills they need. I do not have the skills I need to fly an airplane. I need to learn these skills. This is where Dr. Payne's work and framework helps us so very much, because she talks about strategies that we can use to help students to acquire skills that we might assume that everybody knows. That's one half of this puzzle. The second half is that of self-efficacy. I might have the skills, but I need to believe that I have them. So, question, which of the following strategies is most effective for enhancing one's self-efficacy? A, helpful feedback. B, watching someone else. C, recalling previous positive experiences. Or D, vicarious experience. Now, let me say up front that these four strategies are all beneficial in helping to develop a person's self-efficacy. But the one that is the most beneficial is reminding a person, do you know, last week you did something very similar to this and you were very successful. You can do this. With high school students, we might say, I happen to know that you have your driver's license. You passed that test for your driver's license. If you can pass that test, you can accomplish this goal. Again, these four strategies are all effective, with C being the most effective. So let's look for just a second now at our clients or students who simply do not want to try. They don't want to do this. And quite frankly, I'm not sure I would want to learn how to fly an airplane in this stage in my life. But we have some students and clients who simply do not want to perform a task. And there are strategies that we can use. For those of you who are educators, the 1.33 numeral beside of this strategy indicates that the effect of this strategy is extremely high. A strategy with an effect size of 0.40 is average. This strategy has an effect size of 1.33, which is absolutely huge. In fact, if we use this strategy with students on a regular basis, many of them would improve 3 years worth in 1 year. And what this means is this. It doesn't mean that they report to you what their grade is. It means that they predict their grades. I plan to make a C in this class. And researchers tell us that even if I overestimate my ability, that's okay. I still work toward this. Even if I underestimate my skills, then I can tell myself, I thought I would make a C and I made a B. Look at me. In fact, researchers also tell us that males typically tend to overestimate their ability, but that's all right because they learn to even out the over and underestimation as the year goes by. Females also tend to underestimate their ability. But again, this strategy is highly, highly effective for helping students to want to accomplish. Another strategy that helps students want to accomplish is to have them choose their own reward. You and I reward ourselves. I made it through the day. I bought groceries. I'm back at home. I think I will watch TV. We reward ourselves. We work with individuals who don't know how to do that, and we can help them to make a list of validating experiences and then choose one. And as I said, it does not have to be a pizza party. It can be a 2-minute dance break in the classroom, or it can be for a client, why don't you come in 10 minutes late tomorrow? Or that's one of your options, and they choose. True or false? Number 7. Autonomy is closely related to motivation. And if you've read Daniel Pink's book or many other research projects or reports, summaries, then you know that this is absolutely true. Autonomy is a motivator for motivation. In fact, this is the work of Ryan and Deci. Autonomy has a direct correlation to motivation. Intrinsic motivation decreases as autonomy decreases. Now, I apologize for reading that to you, but I think this gives me pause, especially as a friend, as a family member, as a teacher. I wonder about what opportunities I have missed to enable another person to experience autonomy and to therefore be motivated. This is one of my favorite research projects that I've ever read. And as the slide indicates, people were put into a booth. They were asked to perform mental tasks. There were distracting noises that were being piped into the booth, and their performance simply was not very good. Then they were told, there's a switch in your booth. You can turn the switch and the noise will stop. The research individuals improved in their performance, but very few of them ever flipped the switch. And I find this fascinating. What they realized was that they could. They had the power, they had the autonomy. It wasn't somebody else piping noise in. It was, okay, it's my choice. So this is a huge motivator. True or false question number 8, autonomy and independence are synonymous. And the answer is false. I can choose to work with a group of people. As long as it's my choice, then I experienced autonomy even though I am not working independently. I did not understand this concept previously. When I heard the word autonomy, what came to my mind was an individual working all by himself or herself. But that is not necessarily the case at all. And this is good news for educators and for employers. True or false? Number 9, relationships are the primary source of motivation to achieve. And I think we all know that this is very true. A strategy that we can use is this. And again, we could say students, clients, family members, but when that person has a project or a task to complete, if we have them dedicate that task or that job or that project to someone who cares about them and supports their efforts, their performance will improve. This research project was begun with high school girls, and they dedicated their project to their fathers. Well, this was great, but we all know that not every high school girl has a father at home. So the project was changed, the wording was changed to someone who cares about your efforts. Across the board, there was improvement, primarily because every time that individual picked that project up, that person's name came to them. And if we have a student or a client who says, well, nobody cares about me, then we know that we have yet another task, our task becoming that of saying, I care. Apparently, I have not shown you how much I care. So how can I do that? This can guide us in getting into the heads of students and clients as well. And finally, True or false? Humans can focus on up to 586 bits of information at any one time. And not very surprisingly, this is false. We can't focus on quite that many, although Polish researcher Csikszentmihalyi estimated through many research projects that we can focus on just over 100, about 126 bits of information per second. Now, during the era of Csikszentmihalyi's research, the word flow was very popular. And we know that flow occurs when I am 100% focused on what I am doing. And this is our goal for our students, for our clients. We want them to be in this state, whatever we want to call it. And this is helping us also to understand that distractions do interfere. It's popular to say, well, you know, we all multitask, let them multitask. But researchers are saying when a student multitasks, they're multi-switching. They are looking at this, then this, then this, then this. And researchers tell us that by the middle of the day, they're exhausted. Their brains are exhausted because of the multi-switching. So our goal is for our students to focus with 100% attention. Let me end by saying that motivation is not a big thing. Motivation is a million little things. And this is good news. I thought I would find the answer to the issue of motivation, but there is no one answer. There are hundreds of causes that an individual motivation has been thwarted, and there are hundreds of ways that we can help to rekindle it. Thank you for joining us in this webinar. If you have questions, Ruth will give you the contact information. I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Bethany, for that wonderful message about motivation and how we can work with others on motivation and ourselves. So tell me, when are you going to write a book on motivation?
I jokingly tell people that I am writing a book. I've been working on it for 8 years, and I'll finish whenever I'm motivated. But that's totally true. The reality is this. I became so interested in the topic that I have not been able to make myself stop. But I am at that point now. I have completed 2 chapters, and I'm really, really excited about the progress. I'm actually motivated to complete it now.
Thank you very much. You can contact me, Ruth Weirich, at rkweirich@ahaprocess.com if you have any questions, or you can come to us through our website, ahaprocess.com. So thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next webinar.